Forests have been the settings for myths and legends since the dawn of time. They've always been seen as gateways to the unknown, full of wonder, mystery, and danger. So today, I'm sharing some creepy discoveries made in forests all over the world. And we're starting off the list with this video captured in 2017 in British Columbia, Canada. This is a video, but it's the sound that really matters here. So it was early in the morning, 8:30 a.m. on December 16th in Whitsett, British Columbia. And this dude started filming the tree line when he heard an absolutely nightmarish sound echoing through the trees, far off in the distance. Take a listen to this. How frightening is that? Now sure, there are a lot of animals in British Columbia. One commenter said this sounds like it could be a mountain lion call. Not sure about that myself. I've never spent time in British Columbia, to be fair, but I've watched videos of mountain lion vocalizations and this doesn't sound like that to me. But what do you guys think? To me this sounds like a banshee. Could also be an elk. Elk makes some pretty creepy noises. Take a listen to that, like that's pretty cool, right? Sounds like one of the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park. Anyway, whether the creature in this video was Bigfoot, a ghost, or just a known animal, it's a freaky sound any way you slice it, and I would not want to hear that walking through the woods alone. Alright, this next story is pretty nuts. It was posted to Reddit by Donna Hotter Than a Sauna, and she talks about a run-in she and her boyfriend had with a gator. Actually, two gators. Anyway, goes like this. My boyfriend and I were walking through the woods on a nature trail when we came across a piece of alligator tail and foot that had been ripped and the rest of the body was gone. I freaked out. All I kept thinking was, I have no idea what's big enough to kill and eat an entire alligator, but I don't want to meet it. We cautiously kept walking, and a few hundred feet later saw a giant, probably 10 foot at least, alligator walking along the shoreline with a whole smaller dead alligator in its mouth. You know what's extra terrifying about that story? So they came across a huge alligator, right, that was hungry enough to eat one of its own kind. If they'd been on that walk just a little earlier, may have found them instead. Freaky stuff. Next up, we have the incredibly odd case of the Oakville blobs. So the Oakville blobs case was a very bizarre incident that happened in Oakville, Washington in 1994, and I cannot believe I've never heard of this case until today. Like, where have I been? What have I been doing with my life? So this is basically the real life version of the blob. These gelatinous like globs started falling from the sky, and the even scarier part is that they weren't just harmless goo. The blobs actually started making people sick. They experienced symptoms like nausea, dizziness, and respiratory issues. And when scientists looked at the blobs under a microscope, they found something even more strange. There were human white blood cells in them. Cells from our immune system were in these gooey raindrops. Like, what? What is this? How have I not heard of this before? And if you're hoping for some kind of closure to this story, that's too bad, because they've never been definitively identified. Alright, I got some cool Bigfoot footage for you next. This list is gonna be a bit all over the place, but you know, hey, the world's forests are just full of surprises. So this piece of footage was taken by Todd Standing, who's captured some pretty intriguing Bigfoot footage over the years, but this may be his most convincing. Here he saw an ape-like creature peeking out from a tree root, and he was able to focus in and get some pretty clear footage of its face. Take a look. Just look at the skin, the blinking eyes, like the subtle movements. It looks like a real face to me. Now, could it be a guy painted up with some fake fur attached to his head? Maybe. I mean, this could totally very well be a well-executed hoax. But there's also a chance it could be a real animal, too. Next up, we have a jogger who captured a pretty creepy image and didn't even know about it until later. A runner named Kay Borlees was on an endurance run with the Hawaiian ultra running team during a particularly harsh stretch of the loop full of tree roots and water crossings. She ended up injuring her foot and had to pull out of the race. Her pacer, Cassie, had been capturing images the entire time though, so she had some photos to show her friends and family. As she scrolled through the images, Something caught her eye though, something that sent a shiver down her spine. It looked like a ghoulish figure had been peering out at her from the brush. Take a look. Kay posted her story along with the images to Reddit, and they were blowing up recently. And it makes sense, because that is a pretty creepy image. It looks like a zombie is walking through the woods there. Both Cassie and Kay didn't remember seeing anyone else on that part of the trail, saying tourists weren't out that early. We didn't see anyone for hours while running together, so we were, and still are, positive there was no one there.
Next up, we have yet another body discovered in the woods near Vietnam Veterans Memorial Bridge in Lewiston in Maine. On Friday afternoon, on the 3rd of May of this year, a body was found inside a tent in the wooded area beneath the bridge. Authorities were called and police arrived at the scene shortly after, around 4:30. Of course, as is with everything on the list, this is incredibly recent. I mean, you did click on a video about disturbing things found in 2024, just 5 months into 2024. So there's not much information. What has been released to the public though is that the body was removed from the area and brought to a medical examiner. The person's identity as well as the cause of death remains unknown.
One of the creepiest things about the woods to me are all the noises. Through the dense vegetation and the sheer size of some forests, you never really know what could be lurking out there. So when you hear something like this, yeah, it makes you pretty uneasy. That sounded like the werewolf howl from An American Werewolf in London. If you've seen the movie, you know the one. Not what I want to hear while trekking alone through the forest. The video was taken in a forest somewhere in eastern Canada a few months back. Now, it being the Canadian wilderness, there are tons of things that could have made a sound like that. Doesn't make it sound any less frightening though. It could be a moose call. But have you ever seen a moose up close? They're gigantic. And there's also the possibility that it is a Sasquatch call. Can't write that off either.
Next up, believe it or not, is not a dead body, just an incredibly creepy abandoned home filled with creepy and decrepit knickknacks. Earlier this year, 2 Canadian urban explorers stumbled upon an abandoned home while exploring in Ontario. As the explorers entered the home, they were greeted by a doll sitting on the staircase, and many other vintage dolls and toys were scattered around the house, some in okay condition for an abandoned house, that is, and some not really. Many stuffed animals had been ripped to shreds and strewn across the floor, making for a pretty eerie sight. As the explorers made their way through the home, they were greeted in each and every room by another pair of lifeless, unblinking doll eyes. One of the explorers even said that it was the strangest abandoned house they had ever seen, and that it was also super creepy. If you have a fear of dolls, I wouldn't suggest seeking this place out, because I don't know, you might pee your pants.
This next story comes to us from Reddit. It was posted about 6 months back from a now deleted user. I hope they're okay. It goes as follows. Hey everyone, I need to get this off my chest. Something weird happened to me yesterday and I can't shake the feeling that I was being followed. So I decided to take a hike in the ravine near my house. It's usually pretty quiet, but yesterday things felt off right from the start. About halfway into my hike, I started hearing twigs snapping behind me. At first I thought it was just an animal, maybe a raccoon, but when I turned around, there was nothing there. I shrugged it off and kept walking, but I kind of felt like I was being watched. Then I started to hear footsteps. Not the rustling of leaves or the scurrying of small animals, but distinct footsteps, like someone was walking right behind me. I stopped. I looked around, but again, nobody there. At this point, I started to feel really uneasy. I picked up my pace, hoping to shake off whatever was following me, but the footsteps kept getting closer. I could almost feel someone breathing down my neck. I broke into a sprint. I didn't stop until I burst out of the ravine and back onto the street. When I finally caught my breath, I glanced back at the trees, half expecting to see someone standing right there, but there was nothing. I don't know what to make of it. Maybe it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but I can't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone in there.
And finally, we have the discovery of a 22-million-year-old forest located in the Panama Canal. And while this discovery is not spooky scary, like unknown beings and unsolved deaths, it's scary in the sense that it reminds us that we really know nothing about the planet that we live on. Earlier this year, scientists discovered a 22-million-year-old forest that had previously disappeared after a volcanic eruption. They discovered remnants of of the forest on Barrow, Colorado Island after noticing fossilized trees on the island that they believe were likely all buried and fossilized by volcanic lava flow in the same massive event. The fossilized trees represent a species of mangrove previously unknown, and it is believed that they can grow to be upward of 131 feet tall, which is wild considering modern day mangroves generally grow to be only about 20 feet.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the skeleton. This particular Reddit user worked in the woods for a living, so he had come across many random things in his time. On this particular occasion though, he was quite spooked. He was walking through the woods when he saw a full skeleton of a cow tied together by twigs and twine sitting on a log. Yes. Whoever made it placed it so that it was sitting on a log. Then they also put a neat pile of bones in front of it. I'm sorry, come again? Somebody had taken the bones of a cow and decided to make a craft project out of it. Whew, terrifying. He said that he almost fainted. He went on to comment about how odd it was, considering they were so far off the road. But sir, I would have to argue that it was odd because it was a cow skeleton tied together, sitting on a log. No explanation necessary. Totally creepy. In our number 9 spot, we have the lab. In this story, a guy was walking through the woods, scouting for a hunting spot. As he was walking, without even realizing what he stumbled upon, he walked straight up to a tent where illegal substances were being made. A type of lab, if you will. The second he realized this, he skedaddled. When he was reflecting later, he thought that the smell should have been a dead giveaway. He didn't even realize until he was standing in front of it looking at a bunch of garbage under camo tarps. To be fair, I think a lot of people would have been slow to process this. It's not every day that you stumble across this in the woods. And this encounter though is terrifying to either be caught by the cops near or to be found by the owner because they might be crazy and may try to do something rash in order to protect themselves. In our number 8 spot, we have the 3 bears. This story seems like a retelling of the 3 little bears, without the hot and cold porridge and, the cute hard and soft beds. My favorite part. This is the story of a Reddit user who was walking in the woods one day when he had the strangest feeling that he was being watched. He suddenly began to get a little paranoid, and so his pace quickened as he walked toward where the park warden was parked. When he was about 100 meters from the car, he turned around to yet again check if he was being followed. This time, panic went through him as he saw 3 bears smacking his stuff around. One of the bears was standing up in the middle of the road just staring at him. He never finished the story of how he got out of that pickle, but clearly he did, otherwise I'm sure he wouldn't have been able to make that Reddit post. I was kinda hoping he would have finished the story by talking about his golden locks, but alas, humans always let me down. In our number 7 spot today, we have Leave It to Beaver. This is a story told by a woman who went on an overnight camping trip in the woods with her friends. She set up her tent and they all went to bed, only to be awakened by a really large smack out in the water. Apparently, she said that water carries sound extremely well, so it woke her and her friends up. Her first thought was that it was someone drunk with a gun who was shooting over the lake. Yeah, really? That was your first thought? I would have assumed that it was some criminal with a gun on his way to assassinate me, but I do have a very colorful imagination. After some inspection, it was discovered that it was just a beaver. Yep, a beaver was smacking the water before diving under. Ah, the sounds of the forest that we just don't know anymore because we now all live in a concrete jungle. Well, at least that's a funny story to laugh about afterwards. In our number 6 spot today, we have heavy sounds. This Reddit user admits that they are known to hunt, but in this particular case, they weren't hunting in the woods. It was in fact when this person was only 12, and he was looking for bottles in a creek on what he described as a dense, forested hillside. All of a sudden, he heard some pretty heavy footsteps behind him. He described them as slow, and they continued to get heavier and heavier. He felt paralyzed with fear, and he turned around only to see 2 large holes in the ground. A few seconds later, he realized that it was just the neighbor's cow that got out, and the cow's nose was inches from his face. Imagine turning around to be nose to nose with a cow just following you. So cute. I would honestly love that, unless it's a mean cow, but Whoever heard of a mead cow?
Next up, we head to the Hessdalen Valley in Norway to discuss unidentified lights periodically spotted in the sky since the 1930s. The Hessdalen lights are this mysterious glowing phenomena that show up in the Hessdalen Valley. Sometimes they're seen during the day, sometimes at night. They can be white, yellow, or red, and have been seen above and below the horizon. They can last for just a few seconds or go on for more than an hour. Sometimes they zip around really fast, other times they sway back and forth, and occasionally they just hang in the air. The lights became especially frequent between 1981 and 84, happening up to 20 times a week. People started traveling to the area hoping to see them, but by 2010 the sightings had decreased to about 10 to 20 per year. In 1998 though, the Hessdalen Automatic Measurement Station, or the Hessdalen AMS, was set up in the valley. It was designed to keep track of and record the mysterious lights when they showed up. Until this day though, they're still not 100% sure what causes them. Next up, we have the discovery of the Saola. Now, this one may not have terrified scientists as much as get them super excited, but anytime a cryptid is found to actually exist, it's pretty incredible. This creature, native to the Annamite Mountains in Vietnam and Laos, has a couple nicknames: the Asian unicorn and the Vu Quang ox. It is an incredibly rare animal, and for a long time, it was completely unknown to the outside world, a mythological creature at best. But in 1992, these animals were discovered to actually exist, at least to researchers outside of the region anyway, and the first photograph of a Saola was taken in 1993. Did you notice that flap on the face that like flares out almost like the gill of a fish? Very strange. Cool animals. Next up, we have the whale in the jungle. And no, that's not some bizarre figure of speech. There really was a beached whale found in the Amazon jungle in 2019. This was an incredibly unexpected discovery made on Marajo Island at the mouth of the Amazon River. A 36-foot humpback whale weighing 10 tons was discovered all the way up into the jungle. The whale was a 12-month-old calf and was hidden in the undergrowth about 50 feet from the sea. So experts were pretty confused about how the whale made its way so deep into the jungle. One possible explanation is that rough seas might have tossed the creature out of the water and into the woods, but those must have been some pretty powerful waves. Darlene Silva from SEMA, the Brazilian Environmental Department, explained that the whale was found because scavenging birds were circling above the hidden carcass in the bush. Renita Emin, a marine specialist, was pretty surprised by the find as well, saying, "We're still not sure how it landed here, but we're guessing that the creature was floating close to the shore, and the tide, which has been pretty considerable over the past few days, picked it up and threw it inland into the mangrove." What's also strange about this though is that the humpback whales are usually found in the Bahia area from August to November, so how did one end up on the north coast of Brazil in February? Whales usually migrate to Antarctica after their time in Bahia, so it just makes this find even more strange. Let's talk about more creepy noises though, coming from the woods. Here's another. This video was posted to YouTube by Chris Simpkins, who heard this strange metallic sound coming from the woods near his home one night. Take a listen to this. Yeah, that's a bit creepy, ain't it? The video was taken on September 6th, 2016, about 8 p.m. in North Smithfield, Rhode Island. In the video description, Chris dispels some theories people had about what the sound could have been, writing, "There was almost no wind last night. We've lived here for a year and never heard this before. Even during the windiest of days, there aren't any trains nearby. And the background noise is just crickets/frogs in my yard, and maybe me crying a bit behind the phone." Anyway, let us know in the comments what you think of this one. Is it aliens? Is there some kind of power tool that can make a noise like that? Let us know what you think. Now, this next story may not sound like much to some of you, but I find this one pretty unsettling, and I wanted to throw it in. I think some of the scariest things we can come across is the absence of anything, complete silence and isolation. And Reddit user I Don't Care, I Like Dogs made a post about exactly that. They write, "I live in a really remote part of Alaska. I think the scariest thing I've ever encountered is how silent the woods tundra can be in the dead of winter. I'm talking like I feel I'm about to go insane quiet. It's absolutely unnerving. I became hyper aware of my heartbeat, and my breathing sounds like an effing airplane taking off, and I know a lot of people will say, oh, it's because a predator was nearby. No, man, some places up here just have nothing. That's what really freaks me out. I am absolutely alone in this one spot. I could drop dead and no one would ever find my body. And yeah, I just find that kind of unsettling. And finally, we have the lost city of Z. Percy Harrison Fawcett was a British explorer who set out in 1925 to find the lost city he called Z in the Amazon rainforest. Fawcett believed this ancient city held all these untold riches and a sophisticated civilization. Accompanied by his son Jack and friend Rayleigh Rimmel, Fawcett ventured into uncharted territory, never to be seen again. The expedition vanished without a trace, and there were tons of rescue attempts, including one by famed aviator Charles Lindbergh, but no sign of Fawcett or his companions has ever been found. One theory is that Fawcett just died as a result of all the harsh stuff out there in the jungle. Could have been eaten by an animal or something. Definitely very likely, but there's a more interesting and more intriguing theory that he and his crew may have actually found this lost city deep within the Amazon where they started a new life, living happily ever after down there. Over the years, there have been expeditions that set out to uncover the fate of Fawcett and the lost city of Z, but the Amazon is dense and dangerous, and to this day, the fate of Fawcett and the existence of this lost city is still a mystery. Some of the scariest stuff we can find is out in the vastness, the foliage of the forest.
And some of it was found this year. This is what we found so far.
So these are some of the freshest, latest stories of some of the creepiest stuff found in the woods. Alright, I got a new Bigfoot video for you guys. This video was posted to TikTok by the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization with the description reading, alleged trail camera footage has emerged of what appears to be a giant black Bigfoot throwing trees and destroying a potential crime scene where it is said human remains were located. So this is a pretty clear video. The creature is obscured by trees, but we do get a nice long look at it. And just like the description says, whatever this thing is, it's picking up big logs and hurling them around like they're nothing. Take a look. Yeah, that ain't no bear, the way it picks it up and just slams it down like that. If I saw some hairy thing slamming a log down in the middle of the woods, I would be booking it right out of there. There are a few things that make this video convincing. For one, the clear strength the thing seems to exhibit. One commenter wrote, I had a tree business before, so I know the weight of logs, and that would take extraordinary strength to do that. I also like that this footage was supposedly taken with a trail camera. If this had been taken by some hiker in the woods, I'd be wondering why they stuck around to film when it's pretty obvious you'd be running for your life. Anyway, what do you all think of this one? Hoax? Genuine? Let me know down in the comments.
Next up, we have the shocking discovery of Cole Brings Plenty, an actor best known for his role on Into the Wild Frontier, as well as his work on 1923 and The Tall Tales of Jim Bridger. Plenty was last seen on March 30th of this year, driving his white Ford Explorer out of Lawrence, Kansas. He was reported missing the following day. After receiving a call about an empty vehicle matching the description of Plenty's, police canvassed the woods nearby where it had been left. And on April 5th of this year, 2024, Cole Brings Plenty was found dead. While the cause of death has yet to be shared with the public, police insist that they will continue to investigate the passing and provide more information as time goes on.
Aliens in Brazil. So this is a bit of a weird story. Just back in January, hikers in Brazil captured some strange figures looming over them at the top of a hill. Figures who they believed to be of extraterrestrial origin. And I will say, whatever these things are, they don't look human. I mean, not quite. There's something just kinda off about them. The footage was captured on an island about 285 miles down the coast from Sao Paulo. In the video, we see a beautiful hillside, but perched on top are two tall humanoid figures silhouetted against the sky, and considering how far away they are, they look to be pretty tall. The people who posted the video said they were about 10 feet tall. Now on top of that, their bodies just look weird. They're very slender, and zooming in on one of these things here, yeah, just take a look at how long that arm is. I mean, sure, the image is blurry. Maybe it's just kind of distorted, or maybe, you know, Slender Man was on vacation in Brazil. It does have a bit of a Slender Man kind of look to it. Now, if you're wondering, oh, maybe these were just like, you know, scarecrow type things at the top of the hill, you do actually see them move a little bit in the footage, and they don't move naturally either. I don't know, could totally be a hoax, could also be genuine. Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Next up, we have another body found in the woods, this time just off of Richmond International Raceway, a car racing track located in Henrico County in the state of Virginia. Around 4 p.m. on April 25th, a man visiting the track went to use the washroom when he noticed a strong smell. When he followed it, he discovered the body of an unknown man or woman that, according to reports, was not skeletal but had likely been in the woods for an extended period of time before being discovered. Of course, seeing as this is incredibly recent, there is not much information on the case, other than it seems as though the body was left there intentionally. Police have yet to release the cause of death or any other identifying information on the deceased, probably because they don't know. They did state that they are sifting through missing persons reports in an effort to identify who the victim might be.
In our number 5 spot today, we have the red light. This is a story that happened to a Reddit user's father. Her father had been walking through the woods for a couple of hours when he decided to take a break and sit under a tree for a while. Okay, first off, why would anyone walk through any wood alone for more than an hour? Is that not concerning, like, at all? I get it. For spiritual journeys, perhaps. And maybe it's because I have no muscles and I'm physically defenseless, but still, why? Anyways, our story continues with this girl's dad trying to relax under a tree when a light starts flashing in his eyes. He looked around to see where it was coming from, but he couldn't find the source. He began to get nervous as he saw the red light moved down to his chest. But then he looked around to find the source, and some not so great guy was using a laser and aiming it at him. He yelled at him and started walking towards him, but of course the man ran away. He apparently didn't think it was someone trying to shoot him, but he did consider that someone could be out hunting and perhaps wasn't being careful. Honestly, he must have more faith in humanity, because I would have definitely assumed that. But curious to know what you think. Leave a comment in the comment section below. What would you have thought? In our number 4 spot, we have the hunters. In our next story, a field appraiser had to travel to a rural area in Kansas to take some measurements and photos of a bunch of 20-foot shipping containers that had appeared in the woods out of nowhere in the recent months. As he was inspecting them, he very quickly realized that they were being used as cabins for hunting season. As he was finishing up and on his way back to his car, he looked up to see 2 hunters in full gear, looking like snipers, pointing large rifles at him. Of course, it scared the crap out of him, and when they realized that he was harmless and not an animal, they got really mad at him and super mouthy, and then when they further realized what he was doing, they got even more mad. He tried to quickly finish up and leave because he didn't want to anger them further, but he said he didn't blame them for being annoyed and having their hunting session interrupted. Very understanding of him. In our number 3 spot, we have the rocks. This is a story of a man whom really loves to camp. He goes on a camping trip every year, and so this year was no different. He went to a beautiful area with a ravine in the middle of the forest, and he set up camp. He had a nice day, enjoying the wilderness, and then decided to go to bed. In the middle of the night though, he hears the sounds of rocks moving, but he decides to not think too much of it. When he woke up and left his tent the next morning, he found himself surrounded by a wall of rocks. Someone had built a rock wall around him while he was sleeping. Not knowing whether this was a threat or a joke, he decided to pack up and leave. He said that he had to move some of the rocks aside to make a path, and that wasn't without difficulty. He never went into the forest without protection again. Well, a rock wall sounds like a practical joke to me, but really? A rock wall? Who in their right mind would put that much effort into pranking or scaring a stranger? That's way too much effort. In our number 2 spot, we have the deserted cabin. This is a story of a hunter whom once went deep into the forest in the middle of nowhere, only to stumble upon what looked like an abandoned cabin. The cabin was very run down and not surrounded by water or trails or anything. He and his partner went inside to check it out. They walked through the kitchen and noticed some expired canned food lying on the counter. As they kept looking around, they began noticing some pretty dark things. Satanic symbols on the walls, a really weird painting with the words, "His day will come" on it, and all kinds of books on magic and rituals. They saw a ton of flies surrounding the fridge and what looked like blood drops on the handle, and then they got so spooked that they agreed that it was time to leave. As they were walking outside of the house, they saw a campfire that had been ignited, and they immediately made a run for it. After much reflection, they are convinced that the owner was just hiding in the house, and they would have had seconds to live had they not discovered the fire. Terrifying. Finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the clown. This is a story told by a girl who was having a very anxious day, and so she decided to go get some fresh air and walk through the woods. She had a bad fight with her boyfriend, and as she was walking through the woods, she reflected on the fight and started crying. She heard a voice behind her that said, "Why are you crying?" She jumped and immediately turned around and saw a clown smiling so big right behind her. Instantly terrified to be alone in the woods with a clown, she told the clown that she was just having a bad day and thanks for asking. Fear began to flood through her as she politely said goodbye and began to walk towards where her car was parked. The clown began to walk too and asked if he could help in any way. She anxiously told him no, that's okay, and started to walk faster. 1 second later, she heard her boyfriend calling to her, "Rachel, what are you doing?" Immediate relief flooded through her as she ran towards her boyfriend and gave him a hug. She turned around and the clown was gone. She's pretty positive that she would have been a goner if her boyfriend hadn't showed up. Well, that's terrifying and definitely makes me never want to go through the woods ever again.